What's going on, guys? We are in week 20 of fantasy baseball. Playoffs around the corner. We got some really good must-start lineups, pitchers, tough matchups for pitchers and lineups, and some really good sleepers. You're not going to want to miss this one. What's going on, guys? This is Bourbon N Ball. I am Doug, alongside my lifelong friend over there, Mikey V from Clearwater, Florida, and we are bringing you Week 20 matchups, pitching matchups, lineups, some IL information, and some really good streamers, which we've been pretty good at, right? Not to toot the horn, but, just saying.
Hey, you can go back and look. There's a track record now.
It's true. Everything's online these days. So let's just go into must-start pitchers here, and I'll run down the list. Again, there's no rhyme or reason or order for this particular list. They're just matchups that I kind of really like, and some of these pitchers have been struggling a little bit, and I think some of these matchups are, on paper at least, get-right matchups. And I'll start first and foremost with Dodgers starting pitcher Yamamoto. Friday versus the Pirates. He's 12-7 on the year. 145 innings, 136 strikeouts, a 2.6 ERA. He's giving you 15.5 a start, which is, the guy's a top 10, top 5 starting pitcher almost. Last two starts, 1-0, 11 2/3, 15 strikeouts, 1 earned, 5 walks, which is kind of a little lot, if that makes any sense. 34.6 points. His first start was a no decision against actually a pretty red-hot Arizona team in Arizona. And then he got the win against the Brewers, So, listen, 10 of his last 11 starts, he's gone at least 6 innings. He's been 6-3 over that span of 11. I would say the Diamondbacks have been actually the biggest thorn for him because he gave up 6 earned to them last month, and now he goes 5 2/3 and gets a no decision. Luckily, he's not facing the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's facing the Pittsburgh Pirates at home, which has a lackluster offense, in my opinion. So I would put him in. This one's a funny one. We've been talking about him since Friday, I think. Braves starting pitcher Chris Sale, Wednesday. He's at the Twins. Listen, 12-8 on the year, 129 innings, 160 strikeouts, a 2.1 ERA. He's giving you 15.7 a start. But listen to his last two, 0-2. 12 innings, so that means he's gone at least 6 those 2 starts, 17 strikeouts, 4 earned, 2 walks, 18.76 points. His first start was at New York. His second was versus Arizona at home, He was in New York for that one. But I think he's been a really tough luck loser. He never gets run support. He's got 5 quality starts in a row, only going 3-2. 31 innings pitched, 43 strikeouts. If he can't get a win against the Twins, then something is really wrong in the baseball universe, in my opinion. So I am running him out there 100% positive that he's going to have a gem. Seriously. Next up, I got Tigers starting pitcher, relief pitcher Troy Melton, Friday at the Royals in Kansas City. What a year. 7-1, 84 innings, 173 strikeouts, a 1.7 ERA. He's giving you 14.5 a start. 2 no decisions his last 2 starts. 10 1/3, 9 strikeouts, 3 earned, 2 walks, 15.96 points. So 0 earned against the Giants in San Francisco. He went 6 innings. Then 3 earned versus the White Sox. But prior to his White Sox start, he went 20 scoreless innings, going only 2-0 in that streak of those 4 starts. So I think it was more him facing a hot White Sox team than him just having it was just a really bad one-off start, in my opinion. This week, yeah, he's at Kansas City, but it's the Royals. It looks like a win for me on paper. Then I got Red starting pitcher Chase Burns, Wednesday versus the Cardinals, a tricky Cardinals lineup for sure. 14-2 in the year, 131 innings, 151 strikeouts, a 3.4 ERA. He's giving you 15.8 a start. Last 2, 1-1, 12 1/3, 14 strikeouts, 5 earned, 3 walks, 24.92 points. He got rocked in his first start at the Nationals, giving up 5 earned. Then he looked every bit of the A's versus the Marlins at home, going 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, no earned. But prior to that Nationals game, he went 9-0 in his last 13. It did help. He did get a lot of help from his offense along the way. But I do like this matchup at home versus the Cardinals. Cardinals team that actually has been kind of ranking up the strikeouts lately with Jordan Walker. To me, it looks like a really good start for him on paper. And then this one might be a little controversial here. Right? Guardians starting pitcher Gavin Williams. If you own him, and I know Mike, you do, you can talk some sense into me about this one. But listen, Thursday he's at home. He's versus the Giants. 11-7 on the year, 149 innings, 190 strikeouts, a 3.70 ERA, 45 walks, 12.8 to start. Not too bad. His last 2 starts, though, 0-1. 10 innings, 12 strikeouts, 7 earned, 6 walks. Still gave you positive points, so 4.8. His first was at Chicago, where he only gave up 2 earned in 5 2/3. Then the Padres, he gave up 5 earned in 4 1/3. I chalked that Padres loss up to him just going up against a very hot Padres team. But with that said, he hasn't gone more than 5 2/3 in his last 3 games, going 1-1 in that span. I do think at home versus the Giants is kind of that perfect get-right matchup for him that we always talk about. I mean, worst-case scenario, a no decision with a lot of strikeouts, but I do see him almost dominating that start.
I 100% agree. I think that's kind of like a Gavin Williams to me is kind of like a poor man's Dylan Cease in a way, because he can be so dominant at times. He's got the strikeouts, but then again, it's just sometimes the accuracy. You talk about the walks. We know Dylan Cease kind of goes to the same exact thing. But look, I think I see a theme with this week's starters is, it's the teams that are starting to really fall back in the standings, right? So like we talk at the top of Yamamoto against the Pirates. The Pirates, I think they were great in the first half. It was kind of a cool story for a little bit. But now I think it's kind of come back down to reality. And Yamamoto is a top 10 pitcher still. I think he's a fantastic start this week. Again, against Friday, it's not going to be Paul Skenes anyway. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. But again, Yamamoto, I think that's a smash right there for sure. Same thing with Chris Sale. And Chris Sale, it's just been bad luck. We know about the errors. We know about the unearned runs. We know about that one earned run and then no run support that goes behind it. Chris Sale could easily have 15, 16 wins to this point and really be more in the talk of that Cy Young candidacy against the Miz, except, again, it's just some of these times that he goes 6 innings, 9 Ks, looks fantastic out there, and he just doesn't get the support. So, again, I'm comfortable starting Chris Sale because he's still doing Chris Sale things out there. And then Troy Melton, I'll tell you, last year to me was Trevor Rogers from Baltimore Orioles, kind of just under the radar. He had a sub-3 ERA, had some strikeout games, right? Kind of just really steady. That's how I looked at Trevor Rogers. That's how I look at Troy Melton going into this year. Those numbers that you read off earlier, Doug, very impressive. Kind of out of nowhere, kind of a subpar Detroit team to this point. But again, Troy Melton's kind of been that bright spot. And again, the Royals been not playing great baseball, not the best team in baseball. This is kind of a really kind of fun start. It's not maybe the sexiest name in Troy Melton, but I'll tell you what, the numbers are there and the matchup is there. So I think that's a smash as well. Chase Burns, is he really coming into his form, Doug? Is this the real Chase Burns? We saw him earlier in the year, really kind of going like really 5 innings a lot, maybe 6. But now maybe he's going to get stretched out a little bit toward the end of the year. Maybe Cincinnati doesn't really have a lot to play for. But again, he looks so good out there on the mound, so consistent. So again, be comfortable starting your Chase Burns out there. And then, we'll spend a minute on Gavin Williams. Again, I think, like you said, he's kind of a poor man's Dylan Cease. But again, he has these great starts where he can go out there and pitch 6 or 7 innings and have double-digit strikeouts. The Giants is almost that perfect formula. They strike out a lot. They're not playing very good baseball right now. I think they're 3-7 in their last 10 games. So again, just a really good matchup on paper. And again, like you said, he just pitched against the Padres, a very good Padres team. This could be the week that he bounces back against this kind of a subpar team in the Giants.
Right. I totally agree with that. So let's talk about some tough matchups here. Again, this Paul Skenes one, and I know you just talked about him just a little bit. He was supposed to go up against the Dodgers. He was supposed to pitch today, Sunday. That kind of got scratched. Why? Maybe I guess they think he'll benefit from a couple extra days off. I'm sure it couldn't hurt. But as of now, Wednesday versus the Tigers. And he was at the Dodgers. So I think versus the Tigers is a little better matchup for him for sure. I think if if I knew ahead of time, I don't know if I would put him on the tough matchups with the Tigers. With the Dodgers, definitely a tough matchup for him. With the Tigers, he is at home. I mean, again, on paper, it doesn't look horrible for him. But again, I mean, his last two starts, 0-2, right? 10 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, 4 earned, 5 walks, not even a point combined. I mean, on the year, he's still giving you 10.3 a start, which is pretty good. It's above average. But, that first start, he was at Milwaukee, then he was at Miami. I mean, he didn't look horrible in his Miami start. He did give up 1 earned, 2 runs total. One was an unearned run, and 5 innings. But he only pitched 64 pitches, right? He hasn't gone out and gone to the 6th inning in any of his last 4 starts, going 0-3, giving up 14 earned. Does have 28 strikeouts, but that's, 14 earned and 19 in the 3rd innings is a lot, And like you said, I think his offense looks a little deflated. So I really wouldn't go out there and start him on a limb, especially if he was against the Dodgers. On the Tigers, I don't know, man. It could be a hit or miss start. It's so unpredictable with him, I mean, on paper, Miami, to me, yeah, that looked like a great start. It looked like a little bounce back. He didn't even go out for the 6th in 64 pitches. So I don't know what to expect from him. I mean, it's a better matchup than versus the Dodgers, but still, the Tigers team isn't nothing they're not a bad team. They're still in the hunt of this race. So I don't know. I'd still be a little hesitant. I think if you have better options and maybe a more consistent option, go with that. But for now, it's better. If you own him, it's better for fantasy owners that he did get skipped today because now he's going against the Tigers at home. I do have Mariners starting pitcher Logan Gilbert on here. He's Wednesday. He's at Milwaukee. 9-7, 145 innings, 152 strikeouts, a 3.2 ERA, 11.8 a start. Pretty good considering where he's come from at the beginning of the year, for like 2 months. Did not look good. Last 2 starts, 1-1, 12 2/3, 13 strikeouts, just 2 earned, 5 walks, 32 points. He got the loss versus the Rays. Then he got the win at New York in Yankee Stadium. I mean, he's been pretty up and down all year, similar to Skenes, but better than Skenes, I would say, to this point. And he's just been really tough to gauge. He did look pretty good against the Yankees. He did manage to get himself out of trouble a few times, thanks to that Yankees offense that really isn't, clicking at all because of all the injuries. Not sure he could do that against this Brewers team, though, so I would be a little cautious starting him on the week. I mean, if Bryce Turang does hit the IL, he's that kind of that match in that lineup. So I'd feel a lot more comfortable if he's not in that lineup. But if he is out there, he's going. He doesn't strike out a ton. He makes contact. Those are the type of players that make Logan Gilbert's life not as fun as it should be. Then I do have Giants starting pitcher Logan Webb. I know he's day-to-day, but as of now, he's still scheduled Friday at the Red Sox, at Boston, 8-7 on the year. Has turned the corner, I think, right? 11.4 a start. Last 2 starts, 1-0, 14 innings pitched, 9 strikeouts, 2 earned, a walk, gave you 33 points. His first start was versus the Tigers, then versus the Rockies. A little trend right there. Versus means he was at home both those starts. He's not at home this week, right? So, yeah, he is day-to-day with that shoulder tightness, something to monitor. But chances are, I mean, he's not scratched yet. So his last 4 starts, all quality starts, 3-0 in that span. However, those starts, I think, on paper, he should win, right? The Rangers, the Tigers, the Rockies. I mean, they're kind of not great teams offensively anyways. So I think the Sox, yeah, they've cooled a little bit, I think, but the offense is still rolling, and he'll be at Boston, like I said. So if he does start, it could definitely be a little tougher than the last 4 matchups he's seen. Then I got Twins starting pitcher Taj Bradley, a little surprising fantasy of the year he's having. He's giving you 11.5 a start. He's Wednesday. He's at home versus the Braves. I think he's falling back down to earth a little bit. Still, 11.5 a start is pretty good, 9-5 on the year. He's giving you more than a strikeout an inning. He's got 135 innings, 151 strikeouts, a 3.9 ERA, almost 60 walks. He's got 59, so pretty high on that. His last 2 starts, 0-1, 9 innings, 10 strikeouts, 8 earned, 6 walks, 1.32 points. His first start was at Milwaukee, then versus the Phillies at home. He's given up 3 earned or more in his last 3 starts. I think that trend continues. I think this Braves offense, which is starting to look pretty much fully healthy for the most part, hopefully turns the corner, picks up the pace a little bit, gets some run for our boy Chris Sale, and should be able to at least knock Taj Bradley around a little bit. Then I got Mariners starting pitcher George Kirby Thursday at Milwaukee. 8-9, 136 innings, 114 strikeouts, a 3.89 ERA, 9.9 a start, which isn't horrible. Again, his last two, though, both no decisions, 9 2/3, 4 strikeouts, 6 earned, 5 walks, 2.68 points. His first start in the Rays, he only gave up an earned in 5 innings, got the no decision. Then at the Astros, he did give up 5 earned and 4 2/3. So, I mean, listen, you want to talk about Chris Sale and no run support. This Mariners team, forget about Kirby, but everybody, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller for some aspect of it. I mean, this team as a total could have probably another 10 or more wins if the offense could score. And Kirby, to me, would be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that if it did occur. Forget about giving up 1 earned to the run. Start prior to that. 7 innings, no earned, 3 strikeouts, and no decision. He's got 6 starts in his last 13 where he gave you a quality start, but either got a no decision or a loss. Definitely not running him out there against a very good Brewers team, similar to Gilbert. So I might stay clear of this one for now. And that's those are some of my tougher matchups I got.
Yeah, let's start with Seattle first. I mean, they're 8 games below 500 right now, which is crazy to even think at, because going into the season, we thought they were going to be right in contention again. And it's not that they're not. Obviously, it's been a pretty poor AL so far to this point, so they're still playing for something. But again, to be 8 games under 500 to this point, just not very good baseball. And that's because of their run support as well. I think we talk about it often about how Logan Gilbert and George Kirby just don't get the runs supported for them, even when they have these off games as well, which sometimes they're inclined to. So again, the Brewers are the best team in the National League. I am steering clear away from them right now. I think they're really hitting their stride. They're just playing really good baseball. So again, great matchups. I mean, not great matchups, but I mean great pitchers in Logan Gilbert and George Kirby when they're on. It's just, again, you're playing the Brewers, you're not getting the run support, and kind of like to tail into Paul Skenes with that, right? We've seen teams that have not given really good pitchers run support, and how much that impacts fantasy as well when it comes to it. So last year, Paul Skenes, let's just get into him right now. He had 187 innings pitched. Obviously, his career high right now, he's at 134. So he's about on pace for that 180 innings again. So I'm sure there's some fatigue there. But last year, don't forget, he didn't get a lot of run support either. So as good as he was on the mound, sometimes those wins didn't translate. And that's what we're starting to see with Logan Gilbert and I think George Kirby as well. But just to go back to Paul Skenes real quick and just kind of talk about him. And we talked about his fatigue. We saw his fastball velocity going down this past week. And I think we've seen teams in the past too give starters a couple extra days of rest to see if they can bounce back from that fatigue. We've seen it in Tampa this year. We saw it with Shane McClanahan. Once he started kind of going through some ruts, they gave an extra 5 days off, and then he went back into that rotation, and he actually started pitching a little bit better before hitting his IL stint that he's on right now. But Paul Skenes, again, against the Tigers, yes, it's a little bit of a subpar team, but Tigers are also playing for something still. So again, it's just that not same Paul Skenes that you drafted and go out there and you can just trust and think, oh, he's going to give me 6 or 7. He's going to give me 9 to 10 to 11 strikeouts. That's just not the same guy that we saw to this point. So I think you really have to really evaluate him differently week to week. He is actually starting pitcher number 25 in our league, Doug, right now in points. So that is not where we thought he was going to be to this point. So kind of a tough year to this point. Logan Webb finally had a great outing. He pitched only 80 pitches yesterday in his outing. Obviously, he's day to day. We're going to keep a pulse on that, my famous quote there. But again, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to go out there. I still think he's going to produce. And what I like about Logan Webb too, Doug, is that he's a second half pitcher. We saw this last year too. Really slow start, really kind of clunkers. His kind of a high 3 ERA, I think, at one point. And then that second half, he just kind of turned it on. So again, maybe he's just a second half player. The 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, definitely encouraging. So again, tough matchup against the Red Sox. He's on the road, East Coast versus West Coast. Am I 100% confident starting in Logan Webb? No, but if you put him out there because he's Logan Webb, I'm not going to hold it against you either. But again, it's just against the Red Sox team that is, again, playing pretty good baseball. Maybe not so much this past week, but again, overall in the past 2 months, they're one of the better teams in baseball. So again, I'd be a little precaution with that. And then last but not least is Taj Bradley, obviously having a pretty good year for the Minnesota Twins. Kind of been a bright spot for them for sure. Coming over from Tampa in that Griffin Jacks trade, I feel like that's been pretty much even trade to this point. I think both guys got what they needed from it. But Taj Bradley is still a pretty young guy as well. I believe he's like only 25 or 26. So a lot in the tank still. But again, Wednesday's matchup against the Braves, kind of a tougher matchup. Obviously going head-to-head against Chris Sale as well as of today. So I expect a pitching duel that you would think. But again, that Atlanta Braves offense, still very, very good. One of the best in the National League. So again, maybe just a little precaution with Taj Bradley, just not as confident as I would be in other weeks with him starting.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those games where everybody thinks it's going to be low scoring and then watch it just like get so out of hand. Just like, it's unpredictable sometimes, baseball. That's what makes it so fun.
It's the best.
All right, so let's talk about matchups for lineups. Again, you'll start your studs like we always say, but these matchups, I think, on paper look a lot better where if you need some additional depth, somebody went on the IL, maybe pick a player up from this team or these teams that we're about to show you and read through because the matchups are just that much better than a lot of other teams. And I'll run through the list. I will start off with the Cleveland Guardians. So they got 3 games versus the Giants at home, then 3 games in Colorado, so we know what Colorado can do. Listen, I know they're 3-7 in their last 10, but that has to do more with their starting pitching than their offense. I mean, it all starts with Jose Ramirez. Yeah, he's batting 200 in the last 7, but he still gave you 14 fantasy points and only 2 strikeouts. Stephen Kwan has hit the next level the second half. He brought his average up from 190 to 268, hitting 350 his last 7. Even that rookie, DeLauder, he's been hitting 385 his last 7. I think the pitching needs to step up. Gavin Williams, he's been hit or miss like we talked about. He anchors this rotation. They have some very favorable matchups this week, so this should be their chance to kind of bounce back and get back into this playoff hunt. They'll see Carson Weinhurst, Adrian Hauser, Landon Root from the Giants, Michael Lorenz, Gabriel Hughes, and Sagano from the Rockies. So even if the pitching does let them down, I mean, this is an offense segment here. This is lineups. We're not talking pitching. And I think the lineups won't let you down on this one. Then you got the Houston Astros, 3 games versus the Angels, 3 games versus the A's. They're at home, 5-5 in their last 10. They have lost a series to the Padres, but then they have won series against the Giants and possibly the Mariners with today's outcome. They'll see George Clausen, Wilbert Urena, who we had as a sleeper last week, who got the win the other day, 22.68 points, I believe. And then Grayson Rodriguez from the Angels, Jacob Lopez, Mason Barnett, and Jack Perkins from the A's. So those are pretty favorable in my opinion, especially they'll be at home. Then you got the Dodgers, 3 games at Colorado, and then 3 games home versus the Pirates. To me, that's a really good schedule for them. I mean, they have been scuffling a bit, 5-5 in their last 10. They just lost 7 in a row a few weeks back. But with these matchups this week, this offense should be able to score plenty of runs. I mean, it's really going to fall on their pitching. But they'll face Sagano, Ryan Feltner, Kyle Freeland from the Rockies, Jared Jones, Karen Milodowski. And then sandwiched in between those guys could be a bullpen game. No one's really scheduled for that Saturday game in between, Friday and Sunday. So could be even better for them. Then you got the Phillies. They got 3 games versus the Marlins, 3 games versus the Cardinals. Again, they'll be at home, all 6 games, 5-5 in their last 10. They have lost back-to-back series against the Blue Jays and Cardinals, but like I said, they'll be at home. And again, the offense, it has been scoring runs. I mean, almost 5 runs a game over their last 10 games. It's not too bad. They'll see Jansen Junk, Tyler Phillips, Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins, who's been really hit or miss. The definition of hit or miss for sure. There's nothing in between with him. He either gives you a shutout or he gives up 6 runs. Hunter Dobbins, Andre Palente, and Kyle Lee from the Cardinals. So pretty favorable. I like Kyle. He's probably one of my favorites for this matchup, and Sandy for some part. But other than that, I really wouldn't worry too much about everybody else they face. And then, Detroit Tigers. We just talked about them. 3 games at the Pirates, 3 games at Kansas City against the Royals. 5-5 in their last 10. They've won 4 series in a row, but they'll probably lose this current series against the White Sox. They're down 0-2 in this 3-game series, but prior to that, they've won 4 in a row. they'll see Cameron Milodowski, Braxton Ashcroft, Paul Skenes from the Pirates, then Noah Cameron, Michael Wacha, and no one is assigned to the last game on the series. So again, that could be a bullpen game. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but a little favorable for me. I mean, you could make the case maybe Ashcroft and Skenes could be tough, even maybe Wacha, but I mean, I'm not scared. If that makes any sense, I'm just not scared.
No, I wouldn't be either. And there were some hot guys in that lineup too, in that Tigers lineup. Kevin McConaughey has been hitting the ball really well lately. Same thing with Gleyber Torres, right? Eduardo Valencia as well, kind of sneaky at that catcher position there. So again, they have some really good matchups this week. And again, I would be still comfortable, even with all three of those guys, putting them in your lineup still, especially Gleyber Torres. Really good to see him starting to really pick up this second half here. Going back to the Cleveland Guardians, though, I look at this matchup here, Doug, against the Giants and against the Rockies. This could be a huge week for Jose Ramirez, who's really not been the same Jose Ramirez since we've really seen him come back from the IL. He's still averaging over 3 points a game. He has been hitting the ball a little bit better, but again, just not really the same Jose Ramirez we all kind of grown to love to be that top 5 pick that he usually is the last, 5-6 years or so. So this could be a really big week for him. But like you said, Chase Delore really hitting the ball still again, just hitting the ball really kind of consistently the whole year. Pretty sneaky. So if you've had him in your lineup since April, May, you're kind of reaping some benefits there for sure. Being kind of like I don't want to say a no-name lineup in Cleveland, but newer guys, I should say, in Cleveland that we're getting familiarized with. So I'd be comfortable with both those guys. Again, like I said, Jose Ramirez, I think this could be a nuclear week for him. Houston. There's a lot of the good things going in Houston. We talk about Yordan Alvarez a lot, but we have a couple other guys starting to heat up too, right? We're talking about Jose Altuve finally having some actually pretty good at-bats these last couple weeks and starting to be fantasy relevant again for you. Again, second base and outfield eligible. Again, I expect that to keep up against the Angels and the A's. Same thing with Christian Walker, even throwing a little bit of a Cam Smith in there. I know some of the deeper dynasty leagues have been waiting for that name to kind of pop out a little bit. But again, the last couple weeks, he's been averaging over 3 points a game. So maybe he's starting to break out a little bit for Houston. They do need another bat swinging behind Yordan Alvarez too. So again, coming down the stretch, Houston has some really good matchups here. The Dodgers are a fun one here just because, again, they're playing in Colorado against the Pirates, two teams that are really just out of it already. But I do want to say one thing about the Dodgers, a quick note, and this is only going to benefit for their hitters as well with this note, is that they're actually one game above 500 when playing teams that are above 500. So they're almost a 500 team against really competitive teams, which I thought was very shocking because you think the Dodgers, you just think they're going to be just, dominating everybody, right? So again, you got two teams right here that are below 500, which they definitely beat up on. So I expect that to be the same. So again, your Freddie Freemans of the world, even your Mookie Betts. I know he hasn't been the same guy to this point so far, but again, I put him in the lineup this week just because of these matchups. Going to Philly, man, Philly, like you said, 5-5 the last 10 games. Not really the best streak here, but the offense is still there as well. Bryce Harper's really settled into his role. Alec Boehm starting to hit the ball a little bit as well. Kyle Schwarber woke up this week, right? We saw him hit a bunch of home runs. He was on a Who's Hot list on Friday. So again, they're starting to turn the ball around a little bit offensively. We'll keep a pulse on Trey Turner. We know he's day-to-day, so we'll talk about him, toward the end of the show with the injuries. But again, the Phillies lineups against the Marlins, against the Cardinals, really like both of them. You mentioned those pitchers that are out there. You don't really know what you're going to get with any of them. So I think that's just going to benefit Philly this week. And then the Tigers, again, it's just the Gleyber Torres show. I think that's my pick of the week. If he's a free agent in your league, he's probably, 60, 70% owned, I think. That's a guy that you might want to be able to target. Actually, in ESPN leagues, he's actually 47% owned. So if he's out there and you're looking for middle infield help, he might be a beneficial guy for you for this coming week.
Awesome. So let's go into some tough matchups here. There they are. No surprises, I think, because first and foremost, you do see that Seattle Mariners team on there because that offense has been struggling a bit. So they got 3 games at Milwaukee, 3 games versus the Cubs at home, 3-7 in their last 10. They've lost 6 in a row at one point, but they do have a chance to win their first series in almost a month against the Astros today. They haven't won a series in a month, about It's crazy, crazy. They'll see Kyle Harrison, Dustin May, Shane Drohan from the Brewers, then Clay Holmes, Matt Boyd, Edward Cabrera is coming back from the IL, from the Cubs. I think they'll have their hands full, man. That offense, like I said, it's sad. That's what that is. That's the only word I could say, sad. Then you got the Baltimore Orioles. They have 7 games, but they're all really tough. 1 game at the Rays, 3 games versus the Yankees, and then 3 games versus the Rays. So they'll be at home for 6 of them, but still, wait until you read this who's who of who they're going to face for pitching. Listen, 5-5 in their last 10. They've lost series to the Rangers, the Twins, but they won this weekend series against the Rays for the most part. They'll see Nick Martinez, Will Warren, Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Freddie Peralta, Nick Martinez again, and Drew Rossman from the Rays. I don't think the only pitcher that I think is that won't give them a really difficult time to me would be like a Freddie Peralta or Will Warren. I think those are kind of winnable for them. Still not the great matchups for sure, but I think they're winnable. Everybody else, Nick Martinez is a stud, Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Drew Rossman. Those are some really, really tough matchups for that team. Man, that's a lot of strikeouts for some of those guys. Then you get the Blue Jays. They got 3 games. Again, they're 3 games at the Rays, 3 games at the Yankees, so they're not home. 6 games. 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 6 series in a row, but still a really tough week for them, especially no Vlad Jr. He is on the IL now. And they'll see Drew Rossman, Ian Seymour, which isn't really a scary matchup for me. They have no one assigned Wednesday's game, so that one could be kind of a bullpen. We'll see what happens there. But then Cam Schlittler, Ryan Weathers, Will Warren from the Yankees. With no Vlad in that lineup, it's going to be difficult for that, I think, for them to move, to score runs, produce runs, everything. So I don't know what they're going to do. I would kind of steer clear of picking up people from that lineup because he was honestly the only protection they had. You weren't getting the same year you were getting from George Springer. So because of that, you just stay clear, in my opinion. Then you get the Twins. 3 games home versus the Braves, 3 games at San Diego and the Padres, 4-6 in their last 10. They did lose a series to the Mariners, the Royals, the Brewers, now the Phillies. They did manage to win a series against the Orioles, sandwiched in between those. But, they're going to see Martin Perez. They're going to see Tyler Mahal. They're going to see Chris Sale from the Braves, Randy Vasquez, Casey Mize, Walker Buehler from the Padres. So a little tough for them. And then last but not least, the Pirates. We talked about the offense, right? 3 games versus the Tigers, 3 games at LA against the Dodgers. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They haven't won a series. Listen to this stat. They have not won a series since playing the Guardians back in July 17th. July 17th. They haven't won a series since then. Since over a month, they have not won a series. They'll see Framber Valdez. They'll see Montero. They're going to see Jackson Joby from the Tigers. Then they're going to see Yamamoto. Then they're going to see Blake Snell. And then right now they do have Roblowski penciled in there. But I would not be surprised if, because of his struggles, Tyler Glasnow makes an appearance. I am just going to throw that out there now. I would not be surprised because right now Roblowski is at pretty high for his innings. He's hit the wall. Glasnow is dominating. We're going to go over his stats for the minor league rehab starts. He's dominating. He could potentially be back this weekend. So something to think about. That's a tough matchup going up against Yamamoto, Blake Snell, and Tyler Glasnow, if that does happen.
Whew, call that murderer's row of pitching right there. That's pretty nuts, especially if they're all healthy and good to go. Yeah, looking forward to talking about Tyler Glasnow in a second there. Obviously, big Tyler Glasnow fans on this program. But let's start from the top. Let's start with Seattle here. We talked about them earlier in the show. They just kind of been a dumpster fire all season with the offense. Even if you go back the last 15 games or so, J-Rod's kind of been all right. But again, just like about 3 points a game the last 15. And then you got Josh Naylor, who's kind of been on and off this year. Same thing with Randy Rosarina. We know the story about Randy Rosarina. He can be good, except when the strikeouts start coming, they come in bunches. So again, I'm probably steering away from most of those guys. If you start J-Rod, I'm not gonna slap you on the wrist or anything like that. But again, J-Rod's just one of those guys that you drafted probably a little bit high, probably a little bit overrated, as we always say about it, his draft position. But again, he's probably the only one that I'm actually probably comfortable with putting in the lineup. Going to Baltimore, man, I'm looking at this Baltimore lineup, Doug, kind of rough. Pete Alonso has been playing pretty more decent lately, scoring about 20 points the past couple weeks or so. Even Gunnar Henderson, his bat has kind of come alive a little bit, but again, the rest of that team and that offense is just not flowing. And again, playing against a tough Rays team, against the Yankees that have really good matchups, you're going to see Garrett Cole, like you said, in one of these games. So again, Baltimore just having a tough year. I don't think I'm comfortable with starting pretty much anyone. Maybe those two other guys, and Alonso and Henderson, but everyone else I'm probably steering away from. Toronto, I'm steering away from everybody. How about that? Like you said, Vlad Guerrero not in that lineup right now. So again, looks pretty rough. And then if you go through the last couple weeks, Doug, there's not one guy averaging 3 points. Alejandro Kirk is probably your best hitter in that lineup to this point. And again, he's not the greatest option. I feel like there's some better options out there at that position as well. So again, Toronto coming this week against the Rays. Again, another tough team against the Yankees. Probably steering away again. I'm just not staying away with Blue Jay hitters. It's been tough. Same thing with the Twins too. They've had some pretty good hitters the last couple weeks. Luke Keuchel is starting to hit the ball with his power and stuff. Even Royce Lewis has been pretty good. But again, if you look at Royce Lewis's numbers the last 2 weeks, yes, he's been pretty good, but he's also got 17 strikeouts in 2 weeks. So again, when he's not doing good, those strikeouts pile up, which means negative points, which means you're probably going to lose your week because of them. So again, I'm probably steering clear away for all of those guys as well against the Braves, against the Padres, two very good baseball teams. I'm just not entertaining it. And then same thing with the Pirates too. I mean, right now, I think their best hitter these last couple weeks have been like Jake Magnum, which is crazy. Another old Tampa Bay guy, but I'm glad to see him getting the opportunity. But again, fantasy relevancy, not so much. Same thing with Brandon Lowe. He's kind of hit a lull as well. Brian Reynolds, who was really, really hot in that first half, Doug, as you know, he has kind of taken a step back as well. So again, once these teams start to expose themselves, not being contenders, we've seen kind of a flip now when it comes to some of these players that we might have been putting in on a week-to-week basis. But now I think things have changed a little bit. So again, I'm steering away from any Pirate players moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it shouldn't be a surprise. We think we've all seen it coming. The Twins will do the Twins things and the Pirates will do the Pirates things. And yeah, I mean, it's the great stories, but at the end of the year, you kind of just know it's just bound to happen. When you look at the lineup, it's just, it's not built for longevity, really.
No, these small market teams, you just want to see a little bit of progress year in, year out. And I think the Pirates showed that a little bit in the beginning, but there's still a lot of work to be done for that team, I think, in that rotation and for their bats.
Right. All right. So let's talk about some IL stints. There are a couple day-to-days that I would just want to keep a pulse on. All right. I'm sorry, Mike. I know you trademarked that.
I know.
I like it.
It's
right. Just it's easy. It makes sense. But we do have Diamondbacks DH second baseman Kento Marte. He's day to day for now, suffering from left knee soreness, so something just to monitor, for next week. Brewers second baseman Bryce Terang, like I said, he's day to day with that left knee issue. He also had some kind of thumb ligament issue in his hand, which made him miss a couple days earlier this week. So maybe with both issues, maybe you'll see a little 10-day IL stint. It's not like they need him. They're in the hunt. They're going to probably win the division for the Central. So might as well just give them the days off if you can. Now, here is the funny one. So when I was writing this, Vlad Jr. was day to day. And then I said in my notes, there is a possibility he will hit the 7-day IL for the concussion protocol. Well, lo and behold, he did hit the 7-day IL with that concussion protocol because of the head injury. He was sliding into third. His head hit the knee of that Yankees George Lombard. He did get up and score, but he did hit the IL just about 2 days later. So not going to be any good for you this week, and maybe someone next week, depending on how long he does stay on that. And then Rangers starting pitcher Jacob deGrom, he did leave Thursday's start after 2 innings when he began to experience that right tricep issue. He is day to day. And then kind of insult to injury, the Rangers starting pitcher Nate Eovaldi, he's on the 15-day IL with right posterior elbow inflammation. The injury is not related to the UCL, which is good news for him, but there is no timetable, which reluctantly tells me you might be able to drop him because it is that time, man. Playoffs are going to be raring to go in some leagues in just 2 to 3 weeks. So unfortunately, you can't. You want to hold the roster spot. That's up to you if you have the room. But here's a guy you can let go of. Ace first baseman Nick Kurtz. He's on a 10-day IL with that right thumb strain. He is shut down for the rest of the year. He can be dropped, and if in a keepers league, if you're not, chances are you probably wouldn't keep him anyways. He didn't really have the best year, so you could probably draft him. Could be a pretty good value pick for next year, is what I'm trying to say. And then last but not least, White Sox starting pitcher Davis Martin, 15-day IL with that blister on his right middle finger. This should only take the minimum. Honestly, I find this to be a blessing for him and the team because he did kind of hit a wall. So with those recent struggles he's had on the mound, this could be some much needed rest for him, not just for his injury, but just for mental, for his entire body. Take some time off, take the 15 days, relax for a little while, and then just be ready and raring to go for the playoffs, or the playoff push, I should say.
Yeah, I think something's been going on with him for a minute. We talked about him, I think, last week, the week before. He's actually had negative points since the All-Star break. So not the same Dennis Martin that we saw in the first half of the White Sox. So again, I think you nailed it. It's a blessing, I think, for both guys right there, for the team and for him.
Thank you. So let's go into sleepers. All right. I like some of these. Some of these are pretty good. I got to say, I do like some of them. So you got Guardian shortstop, second baseman, Brian Rocchio, 23.7% owned. Listen, 3 games versus the Giants at home, 3 games at Colorado. We all know what Colorado can do to a bat. Very favorable matchups this week. He does have some sneaky power. He does have 10 home runs. He hit one Friday versus the Padres. On the year, 51 ribbies, 45 runs, and 15 stolen bases. It's not too bad. He does average 2 points a start on the year with only – and here's the other thing. In the last 10 games, he's only struck out 5 times. So strikeouts out there. He's a contact-type hitter. Does have that sneaky power, and he can steal bases with 15. Second, shortstop eligibility. Something to think about. Here's a fun one. I do really like this one. Padres first baseman, Ty France. He's only 15.5% owned. He's got 3 games at New York against the Mets, then 3 games at home versus the Twins. He's batting .409 in his last 7. 15 points on the year. He's giving you 2.2 a start. He's got 17 homers and 51 ribbies for the year, batting in the middle of that order, which is it's a pretty decent order now that it's starting to click. So could be a really good pickup. Only 15.5% owned, plays at first base. First base hasn't been as hasn't produced as much as it has in the past. So, if you're grabbing a guy who's hot, he could go on a pretty nice tear for you this week with those matchups. And then again, I'm going with the Guardians, going really Guardian heavy with these streamers right here. I got second base outfielder Angel Martinez. He's only 11.2% owned. Again, versus the Giants at home. Then at Colorado, he's batting .333 in his last 7 with 22 points and a grand slam. Currently giving you 2.1 on the year. He's got 12 home runs, 43 ribbies, 9 stolen bases. And that does include, he did miss about 2 months due to a fractured left foot. He does appear to finally be healthy. It looks like they eased him into the lineup just a couple weeks ago. So he should be raring to go every day next week against the Giants and the Rockies.
Yeah, I think my favorite person on this list right here is Angel Martinez, and he's been doing it for a couple weeks now too, averaging about 3 points per game. You mentioned that grand slam there as well, but with these guys, you got to ride the hot hand, and that goes double for Ty France in that Padres lineup. That Padres lineup is full steam ahead right now, and Ty France is benefiting from that. We talked about Luis Randolfo a couple weeks ago playing pretty good in that lineup as well. But these are kind of the guys that come, you're not maybe the household names like your Jackson Maros and your Fernando Tatis Jr.'s and that. But some of these other guys do end up producing. We saw it years past with the Padres when Ryan O'Hearn got traded there during the trade deadline. Jake Cromesworth was a really beneficial guy in that lineup for years, the last couple of years producing. So Ty France is now in that role where he gets those benefits and opportunity, and he's been taking advantage of it. So again, great matchups this week against the Mets and the Twins. I'm rolling with them. I think that's almost if you have a spot in your utility, I think you should go out of your way and put him in your lineup right there. And then Brian. Oh man, how do you say that last name? Rocio. Oh my God, you threw me a curveball there, Doug. Holy moly! But again, Cleveland starting to heat up, and he's going to be playing every day in that lineup as well. So I love the matchup in Colorado. Beneficial, this could be a huge week for Cleveland when it comes to the air offense.
That's what I'm hoping. So then we'll look at pitchers now. There are 3 of them. Very surprised on some of the ownership, especially with Dustin May, but we'll start from the top. You got Seth Lugo, who's only 22% owned. He's playing Wednesday against the A's. We talked about the A's lineup. You're going to have no Kurtz. You're going to have no Langoliers. So it's really just the Wilson Soderstrom show over there. Makes sense? So, listen, his numbers on the year do look a little rough, but he has looked great at times. Excuse me. Especially recently, with 6 innings, 3 earned, 5 strikeouts versus the Cubs, 7 innings, 3 earned, 5 strikeouts versus the Giants, 6 innings, 1 earned, 3 strikeouts, and no decision versus the Padres. You see the trend. They're all home starts. And look, he's at home for this one versus the A's. I do like it. Even with the recent struggles, he should be able to go out there and at least give you a quality start. Next up, you got A's starting pitcher, JT Ginn, 18% owned. Thursday against the Royals, the same Royals team, but he's not pitching against Seth Lugo, so it's okay. He's gone 6 innings in his last 4, only going 1-1. He does average 6 innings and 5 strikeouts in those 4 games, and they were against actually pretty good teams: Nationals, Reds, Boston, Rangers. Like, that's really good competition to put up those numbers. Now he's going to get up against the Royals in this one. This one kind of looks like a win for me, for him. So I wouldn't mind rolling out. And then last but not least, Dustin May, who's only 16.3% owned. Wednesday versus the Mariners. We talked about that Mariners team. 1-0, 13 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, 3 earned, 5 walks, 34 points in his last 2. First start was versus the Pirates. Then he was at the Padres. He's given the Brewers 2 quality starts in a row. He should probably be 2-0 since being acquired. Unfortunately, he's only 1-0. But he's also given up a home run in each of those starts and 5 walks, which is a lot, I would say. It's kind of borderline right there. But he is home going up against a offensively rough Mariners team. I do feel comfortable running him out there against that lineup.
Yeah, I do too. I think Dustin May actually should be owned in more like than 50% in the leagues, not just 16% of leagues. This guy's going to benefit from his trade going from St. Louis to Milwaukee. Milwaukee, doesn't get talked about often enough about how they really handle their pitching. Some guys just go there and they just light it up. We've seen it this year with Kyle Harrison really coming together when he's out there. Even Logan Harrison has had a pretty good year to this point. Dubon, right? We've seen him have some pretty good starts as well. So they have a pretty good system over there. And Dustin May is benefiting from that right now. The last couple starts there, he's averaging actually almost 17 points a game. And that was one, like you said, he didn't even get a win in one of those. So that could be even higher. So I think he's going to be a really nice guy to have on your roster. If he's out there, go pick him up right now, right after listening to this, please, because he should be rostered. Same thing. I'm not going to say the same thing with Seth Lugo. That's not the case at all. But he is kind of a fun option to stream. Again, he's kind of due for also a couple good starts coming his way. He is a quality pitcher. He's not just like a young guy trying to figure it out. He's been around the league. And again, against Oakland or the A's, he should be producing at least 5-6 innings and giving you a chance to win the game as well. And then JT Ginn, same thing. It's like kind of the same thing, I guess, with Seth Lugo. JT Ginn has had some pretty good starts this year. Again, bad teams playing, against each other. Both teams really don't have a lot of offense either to say. Like you said, all the injuries that happened with the A's to this point. I think the KC has been kind of lacking so far to this point as well when it comes to their offensive bats. Obviously, Jack Hickley has been pretty good lately, but other than that, though, really the only bright spot. So again, if you need a couple pitchers just to roll the dice on, I think these are good options.
Awesome. So let's end with some IL updates, and this is a pretty decent size list, so just bear with me. All right. because we are, like I said, gearing up for playoffs for fantasy. So based on when some of these people actually do return, you should be able to use them and help guide you. Some of them, they might not be there. So let's just start from the top. Royals third baseman Malik Garcia. We just talked about the Royals. He should be activated from the IL later this week. He did go 0-1 in his last rehab, but he did score a run, and he had 3 walks. Yankees outfielder Cody Bellinger, he's about 90% of his full run speed. He could begin a rehab assignment midweek this upcoming week. So that would be about 2 weeks away from returning to the lineup, which a lineup that needs him pretty desperately, in my opinion. So if he does return in 2 weeks, that's when some playoffs start. So, might be able to get you a boost. Pirates outfielder O'Neal Cruz, he'll be activated Monday, so today, right? So I would probably get him in your lineups because they're going to put him out there every day. We did talk about Dodgers starting pitcher Tyler Glasnow. He went 3 2/3, hitless innings in his last rehab. He struck out 8, tossed 67 pitches. He's slated to make one more start before being activated the following week. So, and it's going to be kind of similar to Snell, where I'd probably say, first start back, you kind of want to shy away. But with Snell, I said, you know what? He's pretty much almost stretched. I would roll the dice on him, and he kind of performed. So I feel the same with Glasnow. If he tossed 67 pitches on his rehab and he's got one more, you're probably looking at about 80. Then you go him out and you run him out. Now you're looking at like 90, 95. So I would definitely roll him out there as soon as he's back. Then Yankees starting pitcher Carlos Rodon. He threw 4 1/3 scoreless innings. He struck out 7 in his last rehab, tossed 58 pitches. He's going to make one start, just like Glasnow, and then the Yankees are going to evaluate him and make a decision whether to add him to the active roster or just have him pitch one more rehab start. Either way, I think they're just going to have him pitch one more, and then they're just going to activate him, just like Glasnow. I think that's almost 60 pitches in his last, so one more would bring him to about 75, 80, which is that threshold where once you hit that, you should be able to good to go and get called up. And then Rays starting pitcher Shane McClanahan. He threw 3 perfect innings. He struck out 2, reached 95.7 on his fastball. It's possible he could make his next start in the majors. I wouldn't start him if he did, just because I don't think he's fully stretched out, even though he did go 3 innings. Still needs to get stretched. He only threw 30 pitches in 3. So I would just I would wait if they do call him up, let him get stretched out, 1 or 2 starts, but he should be there for you in your playoffs.
Yeah, he should be there in your playoffs. And also, you got to consider the Rays are trying to gear up for a playoff push here. So I don't think they're going to go too fast, too crazy with him to get him back in there right away, because they do have a nice cushion in that AL East right now. I mean, let's just go back to Tyler Glasnow real quick. Man, that is very exciting. He looks sharp out there. We did talk about Snell, putting him out there right away. That was actually a benefit for you if you did, because he did pitch really well. So again, Tyler Glasnow, they had the opportunity to take their time with him. So when he goes back out there, I do think he's going to be 100% going out there. I don't think there's going to be any restrictions for him. So again, that's kind of a great thing if you did hold on to him. Carlos Rodon, I'm going to put the brakes on him with him a little bit, because we do know that he can be a little bit more inconsistent when he does go out there. We've seen it. But again, encouraging to see him coming back. And then I'll just end it with Cody Bellinger. He's been out for almost a month and a half, almost 2 months. And man, he's been missing in that lineup along with Judge in that Yankee lineup. And they could just use any help that they can. George Lombardi has been a pretty good, bright spot, I guess, since getting called up, playing shortstop for them. But they need the heavy duty bats. They need the Bellingers. They need the Judges. I know Judges, I think, starting to swing a bat a little bit, but again, he's a little bit far away still, so it's not like we're going to talk about him in the next week or so coming back. But Cody Bellinger, though, to see him running, to start to see him getting back on the field, that's encouraging. And again, he is a top 10 outfielder when he is healthy. So that is going to be good news for your fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, and just to touch base on Judge, I know, like you said, he is kind of just, I don't want to say freely swinging a bat at like 100%, but he's taking his time. I would not be surprised, and I'm just going to go out there and say it. I don't think, even when he does get activated, he's going to be limited. They're kind of like a shoo-in for the playoffs at this point, even though there is still time. So they're going to take their time. They want him to be 100% for the playoffs. So what that means for fantasy is that, okay, he still needs to take a rehab assignment. He still needs to get a handful of games in. That's a week. He hasn't really started swinging at 100%. So who knows? That could be another 2 weeks. Now you're looking at 3 weeks. And then when he is activated, that's the last week of the season. Like, is he going to go out every single day of the last week of the season? If they're up 7 games, probably not. Maybe every other game. And if you feel comfortable and your league has their fantasy playoffs that last week, I don't know if I would run him out there every other game just because of that. So I think Judge might be a lost cause for the rest of this year, man.
Yeah, Judge is going to be a lost cause. And you know what? We didn't talk about him yet, but Roman Anthony as well. He's going into his rehab assignment this week with AA Portland. And, man, it's really tough to really get a grasp on what he's going to look like when he comes back. So I know probably people held on to him and hoping for the best with him. But, when he comes back, you really don't know what you're going to get with Roman Anthony either.
Right. Well, just something to look at, man. So, honestly, I wonder how that will affect how Judge is drafted next year. I don't think man, it's tough. Does he fall out of the first round? If it's like an 18, does he fall out of the first round? Or because it's Judge, just because it's Judge, but he'll be a year older, right? Mid-30s now? I think he's 33 this year.
Yeah, I think he turns an early first rounder this year. I think he just turns into a late first rounder, early second rounder. I think he's probably in that 8 to 12 area, give or take. I think he's somewhere still there because when he is healthy, he is still a monster at the plate. It's just the injuries are the question marks now.
Sometimes he's a monster at the plate. All right, man. Well, that is it for us. Again, I'm Doug. That's Mikey V. This is Bourbon N Ball. We are coming to you live Friday, bringing you the hottest hitters, pitchers, players for the past 7 days. So if you want to hop in, ask some questions, chat with us, have a drink ready, come right in, 8 p.m. Eastern. Coming to you from FSAN, Bourbon N Ball, some heart, some love, some likes, all that good stuff. Hopefully this week you guys can crush it. Like I said, man, you got playoffs. These are the weeks, not like they all don't count, but these are the ones that really count, especially if you're a game behind or right there, or say you're tied and it goes by points and you don't have as many points as the guy who has in front of you, and a lot of different scenarios can occur. That's all I'm saying. So set your lineups, set them for success, and good luck and go out there and dominate.